Almost 50 years ago, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development asked developed countries to help developing nations integrate into the world economy. The Generalized Scheme of Preferences, also known as GSP, was born, and today, a dozen countries have GSP mechanisms in place. The EU's GSP reduces import duties from products coming into the EU market from vulnerable developing countries. This helps developing countries alleviate poverty and create jobs based on international values and principles, including labor and human rights. Sri Lanka has enjoyed GSP benefits since the 1970s. In 2005, Sri Lanka was granted additional concessions through the GSP Plus scheme. The countries eligible for GSP Plus have to implement 27 international conventions on human rights, labor rights, the environment and good governance. However, in 2010, Sri Lanka lost access to GSP Plus for failing to address reported human rights violations. Subsequently, on the 19th of May 2017, the EU once again granted Sri Lanka access to the GSP Plus. Typically, under the GSP facility, customs and duties are either partially or fully removed from products when they come into the EU from countries, but under the GSP Plus, the tariffs are completely wiped off from products coming in from selected countries including Sri Lanka. The current GSP Plus scheme, offered to 8 countries including Sri Lanka, will lapse in 2023. Being able to export more to the EU will help Sri Lanka's economy develop and create more and better jobs for the people. The EU is Sri Lanka's second largest trading partner after China and its second main export destination, absorbing 22.4% of Sri Lankan exports in 2020. Sri Lanka was ranked the EU's 69th largest trading partner in goods, accounting for 0.1% of EU trade for the year 2020. Sri Lanka's exports to the EU are dominated by textiles and clothing, accounting for 52.3% of Sri Lankan exports to the EU in 2020. Exports from Sri Lanka to the EU have steadily seen an increase from 2016, reaching 2,083 million euros for the year 2020. But recently, the European Parliament sent a powerful message to Sri Lanka's government saying its growing human rights violations will no longer be tolerated and may jeopardize bilateral and trade relations. The resolution draws attention to alleged abuses under Sri Lanka's Prevention of Terrorism Act, also known as the PTA, which the European Parliament states has long enabled prolonged arbitrary detention, torture and sexual abuse. The European Parliament has also denounced the Sri Lankan government's obstruction of efforts to secure accountability for widespread human rights violations during the country's decades-long civil war. Former Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, recently urged the Sri Lankan government not to politicize and throw away the GSP Plus trading concession granted by the European Union, cautioning that our economy will collapse. He also stated that should Sri Lanka lose access to Europe's GSP Plus trade concessions, thousands will lose jobs and the rupee will further depreciate, forcing Sri Lanka to pay around 300 rupees per US dollar. Over the next few weeks, the Sri Lankan government will need to make a series of critical decisions, ones that prove to be a difficult balancing act between maintaining strategic international ties, strengthening our economy, and preserving our sovereignty. No easy task by any means.